This game is useful for when you want to call your dog away from a distraction such as people he wants to jump on or bark at, rather than sending him away from you to lie on a rug. For instance, if you want to skip stage 4 of training, which is the placing stage, you can instead stand nearer his rug and call him over when guests come to the door. Once he comes, you can tell him to lie down on his rug. Recommended daily practice, 3 short sessions. A good recall can come in handy in many situations. For instance, until your dog's finished this whole training program, you may opt to call him when the doorbell rings and then put him in a separate room. Or you may have one dog that's finishing the program, but you have to do something with the other dogs until you have a chance to train them. Or thirdly, when you're in the last stage of training where you practice with visitors, if your dog doesn't place well at first, you can call him over to his rug and then have him place.
Bailey, come. Good boy, place. Good dog. Good boy.
So who should practice this exercise?
Callie, come. Callie, Callie, come.
If your dog blows you off when you utter the words "Rover, come," or responds rapidly sometimes but feigns bad hearing when he has better things to do, be sure to practice this recall exercise. Maggie, come! If your dog's already 100% reliable when called the first time, though, you can skip ahead to the chapter called Place. Good girl! The best way to get your dog to come immediately on cue is to turn coming to you into a fun game of chase. We'll practice this exercise in 3 stages. First, warm up by practicing the Say Please by Sitting exercise several times so your dog is focused on you. Then practice taking a step backwards each time. Make sure that you have 4 or 5 treats ready in your hand so that you can deliver the treats right after your dog sits, and so that you can practice in rapid succession. If you take too long to reward or wait too long between sits, your dog will get bored. Make sure you stand up straight and deliver the treats briskly. Notice here that Fergie's owner delivers the treats slowly during her first training session and often leans over to deliver the treats. As a result, Fergie starts to lose interest and his attention starts to wander. Try to bend over as little as possible and to straighten up as quickly as possible. Practice in the mirror several times if needed. If your dog tends to jump when you take a step backwards, take smaller steps so he's less likely to jump. Practice in sets of 10 sits. When your dog can sit rapidly 8 out of 10 times in a row, increase to taking 2 steps backwards. Your dog's eyes should be glued on you the entire time. Once he's reliable, you can go to step 2. Now we'll increase the distance and add the cue word. In this step, say "Rover, come," and then immediately run 4 or 5 paces backwards, like so.
Fergie, come.
Notice that I'm standing up straight when Fergie sits in front of me. I wait until he sits to deliver the treat briskly.
Fergie, come.
The purpose for saying your dog's name is to get his attention before you tell him what to do. If he's already staring at you intently, there's really no need to use his name. Avoid holding the treat out to bribe him into coming to you. This seems pretty simple, but it's easy to mess up. Let's watch BJ. First, if you use your dog's name, remember to use it before you say come, not after.
Come, Fergie.
Secondly, avoid telling him to sit. He should sit automatically.
Sit. Good boy.
And make sure you keep the treat away from your dog until he sits, rather than waving it around like BJ does here. By holding the treat out high, he's causing Fergie to jump. Lastly, make sure you use your dog's name and cue word only once, so avoid this.
Phantom! Come on, Phantom! Phantom!
Now we're ready for recalls off-leash in the house. When your dog's across the room and there are no distractions, bend down in the human equivalent of a play bow and say "Rover, come" in an exuberant voice. Then give your dog a treat when he runs to and sits in front of you.
Fergie, come. Good boy.
Fergie, come! Good boy.
Fergie, come.
You can also practice in the yard if you've already worked on steps 1 and 2 outside.
Fergie, come.
Make this into a game where you and other family members take turns calling your dog.
Fergie, come!
Remember to avoid bribing your dog by waving the treat around like so. Just wait until your dog sits and then give him the treat.
Okay. Fergie, come!
To train your dog to come in more distracting situations, we'll turn the recall into a game of chase. Call your dog and immediately run away from him so he wants to follow. The goal is to make running to you more fun than anything else.
Zoe, here! Good girl.
Zoe, hey, come on, girl.
When
come on.
practicing
Zoe,
recalls
Zoe,
off-leash, avoid this nerdy behavior.
Zoe.
Only call your dog when you know he'll come the first time. The goal is for you to train him to come the first time you call, not for him to train you to call him repeatedly before giving up.
Zoe! Zoe!
If you're not 100% sure your dog's going to come when you call, use a retractable leash. For this long leash recall and for the off-leash recall, you may need to guide your dog into a sit until sitting in front of you becomes a habit, because some dogs lose interest or get distracted on their way over to you and end up running right by. To guide your dog, run away from your dog, but turn around to face him before he gets within 5 to 10 feet of you. Hold the treat out at his nose level so that he knows where to run. Then give him the treat once he sits in front of you. Let's watch that one more time. When your dog reliably sits in front of you, get rid of the food lure and hide the treat in your hand until he sits.
Maggie, come!
One more tip. How you call your dog is as important as what you do when you call. If you want your dog to think that coming when called is fun, you should use an exuberant tone of voice, like you're at a sports game cheering for a friend.
Good girl.
Phantom, come!
That recall was too wimpy.
Zoe, come!
That one was too stern. The next two are just right.
Phantom, come! Fergie, come!
Zoe, come!
Now let's try this in the doorway situation.
Phantom, come! Phantom! Phantom! Phantom!
That call was too wimpy and repetitive.
Phantom, come! Good boy! Good boy!
Once your dog gets to you, you can reward him with a treat by hand, or after the down with distraction step, you can have him lie down on his rug. Now you're ready for Game 4 of training, teaching your dog to place. You can practice your recalls during the placing game too.
Zoe, here.
If you're consistent about practicing only on leash, or only when you know your dog will come the first time, you'll soon have a dog that loves running to you on cue.